Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you to our sponsors, Dell and NVIDIA. They didn't even ask me to say that. I'm just hoping for a new computer. Good morning. It's great to be with you and discuss something that is incredibly relevant and growing in relevance every single day, the future of AI and energy. If you're following along online, please be sure to use the hashtag Axios Events. And I'm excited to welcome our first guest to the Axios stage, the Director of the Department of Energy's Office of Critical and Emerging Technologies, Helena Fu. Thanks for coming. So, you're kind of the point person for AI at DOE, among other critical technologies. How high a priority is AI and its double-sided nature, meaning the potential that it holds for advancing clean tech and so many other things, and its potential peril of increasing energy demands? How high does that rank on your list of priorities right now? And how quickly has it kind of come up the rung of the ladder of your priorities?
So I think that's a great question. And I think for those who don't know DOE, we have many missions, energy being a critical and important one. But also we have this open scientific discovery and a national security mission through the National Nuclear Security Administration. So when you talk about the promise and the peril, the opportunities and the risks, DOE is an R&D agency that sits at that crux. On the energy space, we see both. We see the promise of AI in all of its applications in the energy space and in materials to make things cheaper, better, faster, safer, as well as the risks of rising energy demand. But really, I want to put that in context here. This rise in energy demand is something that has been planned for, is needed for the clean energy goals that we need to be achieving. It's not only coming from the data centers, it's also coming from electrification, it's coming from the fact that manufacturing is coming back to the United States. So we think that this is really a critical golden moment, an opportunity to pair the demand from data centers for training AI with many of these companies' commitments to clean, firm power to really supercharge the deployment of clean energy and meet this moment not at the expense of the ratepayer.
It's easy to talk about carrots, about encouraging companies to do certain things or utilities to do certain things with bringing more clean, renewable electricity online to meet this demand. We're also seeing utilities choose to try to build more natural gas plants and other baseload power. Are there any sticks that the government should use to make sure AI does not exacerbate energy-related emissions?
So, I think DOE here has many roles to play. We obviously have a huge technical bench, and so that's been traditionally where we've been able to provide a lot of technical assistance to help make energy efficiency gains. Obviously, there is now grants, tax credits, loans, a whole suite of things that we have to bring to bear. What I would say is, the department is laser focused on meeting this moment on energy availability, not just for AI, but for all of the growing electrification needs. And, we have not exhausted all of that yet. Not all of the rebates and the tax credits and the loans have been utilized. So what we think is actually needed in this moment is really a focused effort to bring the various parties to the table here and make sure that people understand what the needs are. I mean, there's certainly a lot of shopping around, which is raising the energy forecasts in a way that I think may not be helpful, right? It's really raising the temperature on all of this, where I think if we really focus on this, there's a huge opportunity here.
And how much, we'll get to kind of the framework on AI that DOE has proposed that is in legislation in the Senate right now. But how much of DOE's work will be about leveraging AI for itself or the American people versus helping AI develop with clean power and electricity? Because DOE has so many missions. You guys are in charge of the nuclear stockpile, which so many people in the public don't realize. So I'm curious just about that balance between using AI for the department's mission and using AI for the public good.
I mean, these are two huge parts of the department. I mean, the energy mission here, if you think about the applied energy, and people know us for solar and wind and nuclear, there's also obviously this Office of Science and the fact that we run scientific infrastructure all across the country, and have the most powerful supercomputers in the world, not by chance, but because they are strategic assets that we also leverage both for scientific discovery and for the national security missions. So I think as a department, we can't afford to focus only on one versus the other. We are going to need to do all of these.
How is DOE recruiting talent, given big tech's unlimited spending power and willingness to deploy it in this field?
So I think this is a huge challenge. It's not just a challenge for DOE, it's a challenge across the federal government. I think one of the assets that we have is our national labs. And so DOE has 17 national labs across the country. These labs house some of the most advanced and unique scientific infrastructure in the world. And I think that's really important because that is part of the reason why scientists and engineers are attracted to DOE. We're not an AI company. We're a science agency. And I think the access to some of the most powerful X-rays, particle accelerators, nanoscience centers, and the ability to work with others in this space to do things for the greater good. I mean, we are a mission-oriented organization. I think that has been what has attracted people to DOE and the national labs. But what you say is right. I think there's certainly the allure of working for companies, especially when salaries are 3x or 4x what they can make in the labs. But I think the mission drivers are there. I think will continue to need to invest. And I think that's part of the initiative that we are so excited about called FAST.
So the DOE recently rolled out a blueprint for how it wants to tackle AI, really viewing itself, at least in my view, as the AI hub for the federal government. Not the only entity in the federal government using AI, but as a premier AI center. Can you tell us a little bit about the main aspects of what's known as the FAST proposal and how much it might fully cost to implement it?
So I think the legislation that is out there really reflects essentially what we think is going to be needed. FAST stands for Frontiers in AI for Science, Security, and Technology, and it really reflects the gamut of DOE. To your point about the AI hub for the government, I think DOE is a mission-driven R&D agency, and we're focused on developing capabilities for the nation, right? Whether it's in scientific discovery, in clean energy technologies, or in the nuclear security space. So I think it reflects that, but I would say DOE is a steward of the national labs, but the labs do tremendous work for other agencies and enable other agency missions that in a way that I think is not fully understood. Happy to talk more about that. But essentially what FAST is, it's really built on 4 things that kind of build on each other. The first is around data, and everyone has said and knows data is the fuel for AI. It's essentially important. DOE collects, through all of these user facilities across the country and our research partnerships, tremendous amounts of high-quality scientific data, which we then think could be applied with compute, right? So DOE has leadership capability in computing for the country. We've, through our exascale computing program, have really driven many advances in energy efficiency computing, and happy to talk about that. And we think that there's an opportunity to develop sort of this next generation of highly efficient AI compute. If we have the data and the compute, we really want to be able to develop models that deeply understand science, that deeply understand math and physics and chemistry, and we have those experts at our national labs who do understand all of these different disciplines. And we think that in partnership with industry and academia, we'll be able to develop extremely powerful models that will be applied to our broad mission space, right? And enable the mission space of many other agencies as well. So, I mean, I think we're really excited about it. I think FAST really has the opportunity to supercharge scientific discovery in a way where you could see, you know, a century's worth of discoveries in a decade. Like, that is the promise that AI holds for all of our different mission spaces.
Yeah, and in there, it does mention coming up with AI models that, you know, are more energy efficient, and coming up with AI models that have fewer biases, and that sort of thing. So that is intriguing about the proposal, but again, it has to go through Congress and be fully funded, and you know, whether that gets done soon or into the future remains to be seen. When we had Secretary of Energy Jennifer Granholm here, I don't really have a concept of time anymore, so I'll say a couple months ago, may have been just yesterday, I don't know. And you know, she said that the AI energy challenge is what keeps her up at night right now. Now, this is somebody who has authority over the nuclear weapons stockpile. So, like, that really made me kind of stiffen up and take note of that.
Yeah.
Do you think, how has that, you know, come down on your office and been reflected in your work? And is it something that keeps you up at night as well?
So, absolutely, she has been very, very focused on this issue. And I think, you know, within the discussion we said, there's many different energy sources that are coming online and a lot of energy demand. AI is different in the sense that the loads are much larger oftentimes, and the expectations of companies as well is much faster. I think manufacturing is also experiencing this, but we're not hearing it as much in the same way. What I will say is the secretary, after that, a few months ago or yesterday, she charged her energy advisory board with looking at this exact issue. And in fact, they've been working and briefing her. They're going to be doing a public briefing for her next week. So I think stay tuned for that. But largely, you know, across the department, we are very much focused on this issue. So we have a cross-agency team that is actively looking at all of the tools, the resources, the technologies that can be brought to bear, and how DOE can use its convening power to really work with all of the different stakeholders, from the grid operators, utilities, regulators, to bring others into a conversation so that people feel part of that shared solution rather than feel like things are happening to them.
Gotcha. What is the biggest thing that you think people don't know about DOE's work but should, as it relates to what we've been talking about today?
So there are so many things, because I think the energy part of DOE is what throws folks. You know, they hear DOE and they think, oh, energy. I think, you know, I mentioned some of these things, but I will dive in a little bit more. I mean, DOE is the steward of high performance computing for the country. And, you know, DOE has a history of setting extremely ambitious energy efficiency goals, things that people were not possible at the time, did not think could be possible, and then working closely with industry and academia to achieve those goals. And I think the Exascale computing project is a really good example of how we were able to work on that over time in deep partnership with a number of companies to really enable this new era of exascale, which is the most powerful and fastest supercomputers to do the kinds of modeling and simulation of the climate for our stockpile that we really need. And I think the Exascale computing project not only demonstrated large-scale energy efficiency in computing and drove that, but also cooling technologies at a large scale. So I think that is very exciting, the ability to do that, and I think importantly for our colleagues on the Hill, on time, under budget, is really a remarkable feat because this is a huge engineering type project with many different labs and many different experts involved.
Yeah, and I think often when you look across the government, there's this entity, U.S. Global Change Research Program, which puts together these massive climate reports every couple of years. I don't think people realize that the DOE is actually the largest funder, or the lion's share of money goes there in terms of climate research, largely because of the computing.
Right, and and this enabling, I think the enabling function of DOE, right? Like we steward the labs, we have these experts at the labs, but the compute, we work with many different agencies. I think most recently, really excited to see a partnership with NASA using our machine to model the landing of the Mars rover, or climate modeling. Climate modeling with NOAA. I mean, there's just so many examples across the board where we are partnering both in terms of compute, but also in terms of the expertise.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for being here. We're just out of time. So thank you, and I hope to see you again soon.
Yes, thank you so much.